everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am your host, Mary Katharine Ham. I'm here with my co-host, Vic Maddow of the Washington Free Beacon. We are your morning show for any hour. Over-caffeinated and underprepared, moderately right, moderately reliable. All those things. And we're going to talk about the news because there's so much to talk about. As usual, we're really on speed these days.
You mean we're speed on the drug?
I mean, that's what it feels like.
Like Michael J. Fox.
I am occasionally.
In Family Ties. Okay.
Or Elizabeth Berkley.
Oh, that's caffeine
pills.
pills. That's caffeine pills, yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Whatever we're on. Yeah. A lot of people in this administration probably on some stuff. Yeah, we're working on it. It's different from the stuff that the last administration was on.
Yes.
Which the Secret Service found and then didn't figure out whose it was.
Mystery.
Still a mystery.
Unsolved mystery.
Still a mystery.
Jimmy Hoffa's body.
All righty. But before we get to all that, what's going on with you, Vic?
Hello, Mary Katharine. A lot of things. One, thinking about all the topics and the direction we're going to go today with our discussions coming up, I thought about something my son said, who, of course, was in attendance at our Austin podcasting. And he said to me later when we got back home, because Kate was asking, how was the show? And
right.
He said, oh, it was great. He said it was really good. And then he said to me, you could be more conservative.
Oh, I love it.
What? He goes, well, I don't know why you... I said, I'm not covering up anything. This is exactly how we feel when we see something. This is what we do. This is how the show is. We're just going to call it like we see it, you know? Okay, so that's the first thing.
That's the greatest
really, that surprised me. I was like, well, there are other podcasts you're probably going to really love.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first weekend I've been home in a long time, because otherwise I'm usually traveling to Nashville or visiting my father. So what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
I went by myself after I had some errands to do to the local record shop, CD seller, and I got myself vinyl.
Nice.
And I come home, and she goes, "Oh, you went to the record store?" And I go, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh, you got something?" She goes, "Well, as long as it's not another Beatles album." It was.
Which one?
And she's so sick and tired of it. This one is Past Masters. And if you remember in the olden days, meaning the 80s, 90s, the CD for Past Masters, you had to buy two. There was Past Masters Volume 1 and Volume 2. They are the singles.
I don't remember Past Masters.
They're great.
Like,
so it's
is
like
that
a
like
best
Now
of.
This Is Music?
Yeah,
like a collection of CDs?
That's right. Part 17. Now This Is Music. Did you have like the 17 parts? No.
Did you order them with a penny
yeah, that's right.
in the mail?
That's right. Big mistake. Columbia record thing. Okay. Past Masters technically is the Beatles singles that were not on other albums.
Okay.
Not counting the Let It Be album, which was itself a hodgepodge. Like the last official album, as many Beatles fans know, was Abbey Road. Right. But there were leftovers that should have been on that album that weren't, including Let It Be and Get Back. So they ended up on this album, and I really wanted it it's a double album, and Past Masters 1 is on there. Not my favorite. The early Beatles stuff doesn't do it for me. But the Volume 2, it's Day Tripper, Don't Let Me Down, Get Back, Revolution, the other version, the harder, more electric version of Revolution, Let It Be. Great stuff. Listening to that, I just want to say, so yes, sick and tired of it, fine, I get it. I promise that my next album that I buy is not going to be with the Beatles or Hard Day's Night. That'll come out later. But listening to this, Billy Preston playing the keyboards is so good, and he really adds this missing element to the Beatles, who are very sort of English, and he adds soul to it, you know, and he had played with Little Richard.
What are you trying to say about the people of Liverpool?
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, I mean, they liked it. They emulated,
yes.
You know, much like, Rolling Stones loved blues. But he's so good on Get Back and as well as Don't Let Me Down, and he just... Listen to that if you get a chance. Listen to it on vinyl. It's such a richer sound. And even the overplayed songs on Past Masters, like things I've heard a million times, like Hey Jude.
Yeah.
Which the kids think is a great song because they're only hearing it now. It's like
yes.
still new to them. Like, wow, this is great. There's like different melodies and things.
My kids get annoyed with me because I'm always queuing up the Jude,
Oh, yeah.
Jude. And they're like, we know, Mom.
Well, it goes on for like
because I get very
another 5
excited
minutes.
about that part of the song.
Yeah, it goes on. And it's... that was pretty good, by the way. But if anyone's listening, we did not use Paul McCartney's voice. That was Mary Katharine.
That was me.
That was her doing her. Paul McCartney trying to emulate John Lennon, saying, "Hey, I can go raspy too."
Yeah.
But it sounds really good on vinyl, so I highly recommend it. That's what's going on with me, Mary Katharine. How are you?
I am pretty good. I will say about your son being in the audience.
Yes.
I appreciate his input on the show. He's a smart dude. He had some like political history pulls while we were at dinner that I had forgotten about. And I was
Really?
like, yeah, there was some Virginia specific politics thing that I was like,
yeah, he's crazy.
wow, dude. So maybe actually we should have him as a consultant or something. But also, it's interesting to me. I don't like to speak in front of my family.
No.
I don't like to perform
Yeah.
in front of my family and friends.
It's weird.
I get very uncomfortable. And so Steve, I'm not sure Steve has ever seen me give a speech, maybe. Because
Really?
look, I'm not sure that
After all
dude.
this time.
Can that dude be trusted not to troll me from the audience? I'm not sure.
And also he gets the speeches for free.
That's
at
true.
home.
I mean, all this content,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I don't do well with that. I think I've given one speech in front of my parents before, but it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Just
And
thinking
it's
about
silly
that now.
because I'll talk to my parents about the same exact stuff sitting at a table. There's something about that, just that little bit of veneer of performance
Yes.
where you feel like the person who really knows you, there's something odd there about that mix. It's two versions of myself in the same room.
Do you worry that you're saying things that they might call you out on later?
No, not that. It's just part of, it's like a presentation. It's like if you time traveled and two versions of yourself met each other and it might be dangerous. I feel like there's two versions of me in the room, like the real life version and the performing version.
Yes.
And then, which aren't all that different, by the way, because I'm lazy. I'm not constructing
No,
a whole
people will
personality.
ask this about you, and it's like what you see
They're
is
not
what
very
you get.
different.
No, it really is.
But something about it makes me nervous about that. I don't know. It's weird. Also, I love the early Beatles. I was raised on the early Beatles.
Yes.
My dad saw the Beatles live in Paris in 1965.
Wow.
I mean, that's a nice one. They
were big by then.
I was obsessed with the Beatles when I was a child. I think we may have discussed this.
We've
a little
had
bit.
great. Well, I know this because you will throw in sly references that I'll get, and vice versa. I'm like, we're on the same wavelength here. Yeah.
I love them so much. I had a Beatles themed birthday party in 1988.
Wait a minute.
That's right.
Okay, what did the other guests have to do?
I believe
did everyone have to come in as a certain thing?
People came dressed like 60s style.
Oh, okay.
That was kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
But I got like several giant like Beatles tour posters and album cover posters for that birthday.
Cool.
Also, I love from the early Beatles things that aren't the most played songs, like I'm Happy Just to Dance with You.
That's a lovely
things
nice
that are
one.
just like a
Sure,
little
it's a little
outside
cute.
the normal plays. But yeah, this makes me want to go listen to the Beatles and then have my children complain at me about it.
It's good stuff, man.
That's what
it's really good
I'm trying to think if we've had any toddler adventures. I mean, they continue to destroy their room.
The room with the ladder.
Yeah, well, the ladder's
What could go wrong? Oh, right, the ladder's gone. Or the slide. The slide is gone.
There's gonna be nothing in the room. Almost everything is gone at this point. They did take out the lamp finally, which I was like, yeah, that was going to happen. In fact, I looked at it that morning and was like, I should just get this out of here.
In what sense did they take it out? They didn't break a bulb or
Oh,
anything.
no, they smashed the whole thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the whole thing fell apart. Now,
Yikes.
you would say to me, rightly, why did you have a breakable lamp in there? But it had been through so much, I thought maybe it was impervious. I was like,
it made it through several kids.
Maybe it's some sort of magical lamp. I don't know. And it's funny how you have those like moments that are sort of premonitions, or maybe you're just overreading it when you look back. But that morning I was like, I feel like they're trying some new tricks with this lamp. I should probably get it out of here. And then I didn't. And then I heard Steve upstairs go, "Stay in your bed. There's glass over here." And I went, "Oh, let me go get the broom."
Yeah.
And we tag teamed
That's it.
the mess.
Wow, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Smashed.
Made me a little sad. I liked that lamp.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll get over it.
Sorry.
All right.
Condolences.
Speaking of smashing things, shall we talk about Elon Musk
Hey.
and the federal government? Dun, dun, dun. You like that segue?
I'll do. Let's do it.
Yeah. Elon Musk sent out an email on Saturday night after having showed up at CPAC and being given a I don't like the term gifted. You don't need that. Given. Sorry.
Yeah.
I went really like Gen Z there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Being
you're turning
given
nouns into verbs.
a chainsaw by Javier Milei.
Yes.
And seeming like, frankly, pretty off kilter at CPAC. Not just the chainsaw, which I'm very open to, but like, you could tell the dude's been doing a lot of all-nighters.
Yes.
Yeah,
so you get a little loopy.
Yeah, quite loopy. So on Saturday night, he decides to send out both an X post and an email. He sends an X post saying people are going to get an email. Yeah. Everyone in the federal government's going to get this email telling them to tell OPM/me the 5 things they accomplished in the last week. And if you don't reply to that email, it will be considered a resignation by Monday. Okay. So a couple thoughts on this.
Just a couple.
Don't send an email on a Saturday night.
Yeah, in general.
With a deadline by Monday. That's just like not, no.
Yeah.
Even I understand that he works 7 days a week.
Yes.
The federal government definitely doesn't, but even by normal people hours,
we try not
Saturday night is outside the realm.
Unless you're like in the news business.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's one. 2, I'm not sure what the actionable intelligence is off of 2.4 million responses.
Right.
If everyone in the federal government responds.
And responding to whom?
Yeah. Except he has said he's smoking out people who don't check their email, which I'm open to this argument.
That would be a lot of kids, by the way. But these are not kids. They're talking about federal workers.
But here's my last thought on this. And I think the most important one for their strategy and going about Doge and doing all this. Trust your own people. You just confirmed in the Senate with a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
People who are heads of these agencies who you can hand the ball to and say, this is some information that we would like. Go about getting it. Kash Patel had just gotten over to the FBI. He was quickly making changes, sending hundreds of people to Alabama. Yeah. Sending people back out
decentralizing the FBI.
Sending people back out to offices where there's like crimes happening that need to be solved instead of having them in the city at headquarters. He's making these changes. He's learning his agency. Let him send the email at least, or do it. What you've got here is that you've got either Elon or Patel or Tulsi Gabbard or Pete Hegseth being undercut, right? Yeah. Because
I'm sure there was no communication.
Well, this is what I'm saying. If there were, it'd be fine.
Right.
Because I don't think it's an unreasonable ask, despite the timing, to say 5 things that you did.
So it was an email from like Elon at Doge, Musk at Doge.com.
I don't think it was. I think it was from OPM. HR at OPM.
Some poor person's going to get millions of emails listing what people did for the last 5 days.
You know how government works. That inbox probably can't even take 2.4 million.
You get error 404, mailer daemon. Mailer. That's how does that make me old by saying that?
No, I like it.
You know that?
I like it.
I'll tell you one thing, Mary Katharine. My answer to that email is Marjoram M5. What is Marjoram M5? It is a delicious California red blend of 5 grapes. And I had that on Saturday night with friends at a friend's dinner. That's what I did on Saturday. If they wanted to know what I did.
Okay, but that's just Saturday. You could have rounded it out with some other drinks.
Oh, I did. I did a little Calvados, a little champagne. Yeah, well, it was a festive
You could
night.
list 5 things you had drunk in the last week.
5 things
yes.
I had drunk. It's more than 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's obviously a national security element to this, and Kash Patel, who is our new head of the FBI, immediately had to go into action and say, please do not reply with 5 things you did, including, I don't know, we took down so-and-so. I went undercover.
It could go badly.
It could go badly. If you're asking Donnie Brasco what he did, that's a bad idea. And likewise for the Department of Defense, if you're doing something like, I decrypted the following messages, what do you, and somebody from OPM may or may not have the classified credentials to get that.
There are complications.
They're slight.
If you're going to dash off an email on Saturday night. So several of the agency heads, I was actually pleased to see, because I think this is the right response, said, hold off, guys. Hold off, my employees. Yes, you do still work for OPM and the executive, and by extension, Musk, but I have the expertise to deal with this kind of information. Now, as always, with everything Trump administration, even when I have objections and I'm like, this is juvenile and probably not the best way to do this and could have potential downsides, the federal workers / the left / the media are like, I'm going to make you support this email by acting like such an idiot about it, right?
Right.
So this is the American Federation of Government Employees. It is cruel and disrespectful for federal employees to be forced to justify their job duties to this out-of-touch, privileged, unelected billionaire who has never performed one single hour of honest public service in his life. Okay. Currently, he is saving our astronauts from space because NASA cannot do it. Okay.
Which, by the way, the new narrative is that they're not really stranded.
Oh, no, they're not stranded. Yeah. So just like
Starlink.
Let's
How about
check,
Starlink?
Let's be as conservative as possible and give him a week of good public service for saving astronauts from space that the U.S. government could not. So I'm just going to
throw that out there.
He does a different kind of work. It is true. He does not do public service in the way that the federal employees do. It's not cruel to ask people what they did last week. It's a little capricious and annoying the way that he did it. But this is what CNN covers. Can I play you a little clip?
Oh, no.
This is a federal worker talking about getting this email.
First, just tell us about this email and what it was like receiving it and what you all have talked about after getting it.
Sure. I got this email Saturday afternoon, about 3 p.m., and I felt absolutely infuriated getting this email with a demand within 48 hours to provide a response on what I did within the last week or face termination. This is clearly an attempt from Elon Musk to harass and bully and intimidate the federal workforce, which is part of his broader plan to gut the federal workforce and privatize public sector services to ensure that corporations like his own can get more profit. And that makes me really angry, and my coworkers as well.
You should leave your job if you think that this
so mean. You're so mean.
Infuriating. What do you mean? I'm just using normal.
I'm imagining
normal federal worker girl voice.
I'm normal federal worker girl voice. Remember that one. I'm not looking at the video. I'm just hearing the audio for this. And what I picture, though, is a split screen and the other CNN anchor with a sort of the tilted, concerned look, which is actually also my Tucker look, but it's the same look. Like,
you are nailing it.
Right?
She does have very concerned look.
Oh, no, really? Okay.
She has very concerned look.
Yes. Please.
You sound silly. You sound stupid. 48 hours to send 5 things. I am, as I've said, I'm open to the idea that this is not a wise or perfect or great move. You sound silly.
Yeah, but and if you can't, you can't. But I know what they're trying to do here, right? Which is, of course, again, when they take a big swing of the axe here, it's all sorts of chaos, right? Or what is the notorious line by Yezhov, the NKVD guy, when you chop wood, chips fly. Okay, it's happening. But what we're trying to do is the people who don't respond is maybe a sign of people who are getting paid who don't exist, or people who no longer work there, or somebody else is collecting a paycheck. This is part of sussing out the government waste and fraud, right? This is like, if all he said was, can you just reply to this email, maybe that would have been better. And then the ones who don't reply, let's look into that, and not say you're automatically fired. But who is this person? What is this email? Where does it go to? And I get it, because what are they trying to cut to? $2 trillion?
Yeah.
Something like that. And it's like, what are we, 36 trillion in debt or something like that. And these are small things, but it's something. And they have when is their deadline? It's 4th of July, 2026.
Yes. They only have a couple years.
So we're just getting started. But
also, I like the idea that you shouldn't even consider cutting some of the people who are damaged to this degree by an email asking them for 5 bullet points. I mean, and many people made the point, like, in any other job, if you get an email and then you go on TV and talk junk about your boss for sending you the email, you'll usually lose your job. That's how that works for normal people.
I mean, yeah, because otherwise they're stereotyping themselves as one of the characters from the movie, the great movie Office Space.
Right.
When they say, well, what is it exactly that you do? You
Right.
know, well, so you deliver the paper. No, I have a secretary who does that. Yeah, I'm a people person, you know, and it's like, it's not working.
Well, and
So-
the question is, this is a technology philosophy sort of being conducted by Elon Musk
It's the efficiency element.
on the federal government, but it's not necessarily efficiency. It's this fail fast thing. Like,
I see.
do things, find out if they work, adjust, and adjust quickly.
Yeah.
That is the opposite of federal work.
Federal
right?
work. Right.
And I do think, as I've said several times, moving fast and breaking stuff is, I think voters have a pretty high tolerance for it right now until you break the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Now, on several occasions, they have made mistakes.
Sure. Of course.
At Energy, they let go of some people who were important, and brought them right back.
Yeah.
There have been probationary employees who were either wrongly categorized as probationary, or one might argue, okay, they're probationary, but they're actually very experienced and they came from such and such.
Yeah.
Yes, that will happen,
Yeah.
right? And some of those have been corrected or reinstated.
Yes. Essential. Yeah.
I think the question is who in this argument wins out when it's federal workers and their
Right.
very different expectations of a workplace than the normal workplace versus the chaos that Doge might create.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, because it's, as you know, it's very hard to get fired if you work for the federal government compared to if you're in the private sector and you're an at-will employee. It doesn't work like that. And you got to go through multiple hoops, if ever. And people talk about this. I mean, this is famous. People talk about this all the time. But again, you think about, for example, the 60-minute segment with the USAID worker, another tearful story. And that woman was a speechwriter, consultant speechwriter to Samantha Power.
I know.
She'd been there for about 2.5 years.
I believe MSNBC did like an entire montage of former federal workers explaining how important their jobs were. It's not that these folks don't deserve any sympathy, right? Like their lives are changing. It can be uncomfortable. It can be, and if we're doing it for bad reasons, we should correct that. However, did MSNBC or CNN do on-camera interviews with people who lost their jobs during Keystone cancellation?
Right.
People who lost their jobs at manufacturing plants.
Yeah.
People who lived in tents because FEMA couldn't get its ish together in Western North Carolina. They decide who the victims are. They have always decided who the victims are.
Yeah.
During COVID, the victims were not small business people who lost their businesses or kids who couldn't go to school. The victims were only people who died of COVID because the evil, bad conservatives let businesses open.
Yeah.
Like that's basically it, right?
Got to focus on those stories.
Yes. So they focus on the victims they want to focus on, and to the exclusion of everyone else, which is not a full story to be telling people, but I don't think it works anymore.
Yeah.
And the juxtaposition of Western North Carolina coverage versus federal workers coverage looks very bad.
Right. I mean, and this is the good thing about, that we're able to get these, we're not reliant strictly on ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN anymore.
Right.
So that we can find it from other sources what exactly is happening out there. A couple thoughts. One is a very good friend of ours, when he was in high school or college, worked a summer job at a federal agency because they had a local local office here. And he could tell you how little work they did, where during the day they'd leave to go see a movie. Yeah. I mean, so it happens. And this is, we all know that. I mean, if you look at the polls, a lot of Americans believe that in the grand scheme of things, what Doge is trying to do is long overdue.
Yeah. And so
it's just so severe because it hasn't been done before.
The most recent one is the Harvard-Harris poll, which found that 72%
right.
of registered voters support an agency dedicated to this. Almost 9 in 10 Republicans, 2/3 of independents, and 6 in 10 Democrats. Now, these numbers are higher for Doge than other polls have been. So I would say this is like bringing up the average, but it is a little bit of an outlier. Nonetheless, good news for the Trump administration to get, particularly after this, but the Yosemite National Park workers mounted a protest this past weekend. Okay, well, first let me give you an anecdote on this is a reporting from Yosemite National Park. Again, I think it's better to do things wisely and carefully. However, I, as a consistent and long time advocate of cutting government, if this is how we get there, this is how we get there. I will take what I can get because they never give me anything. That's why I took sequestration. And a lot of conservatives were like, but they're cutting things that they shouldn't cut. And I was like, they've never cut anything before.
Yes.
Give me sequestration. That's a real old one. Sorry, guys. Bringing up old. I'm pretty sure that all of sequestration got clawed back too. But at any rate,
that's okay.
At California's, this is, I believe, Washington Post reporting. At California's Yosemite National Park, the Trump administration fired the only locksmith on staff on Friday. He was the sole employee with the keys and the institutional knowledge needed to rescue visitors from locked restrooms. All right, I got a couple questions. How many tourists are getting stuck in Yosemite shitters every year? Like how large a problem is this?
You would be surprised the number of bears and raccoons who play pranks on these tourists. And they're the ones who slip the lock on top, or they put a little pencil in the thing, so now they can't open it. It's a nightmare, Mary
And Ranger
Katharine.
Smith has been fired, and he can't tell the bears to do what they're supposed to do.
No. It's,
hey, boo-boo.
Yeah, I mean, that's your Yogi Bear impression, man. You're full of stuff. That's full of surprises. Hey,
boo-boo, we got another tourist in the bathroom.
That's right.
He can't get out. Steal his picnic basket.
That's a whole episode. Just people getting stuck like that.
So, what happens with these things is that they make this complaint,
and they think this is a good story.
Well, again, the national parks and the mall and all the things you can visit, those are people's favorite part of the federal government. Right? You get to see beautiful things.
Right, Mount Rushmore. So they always go to Mount Rushmore and the Washington Monument. Oh, where did you travel from? Oh, it's so far. It's closed now. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So you have, this is the good stuff, right? And as a result, sometimes in government shutdowns and all sorts of stuff, they will make the parks as painful as possible in order to illustrate that the government shutdown is affecting people. Right. And of course, this is the proper narrative, so the media will run with that. What this indicates to me is that Yosemite is doing business in a very stupid way. And we have now revealed that Yosemite is doing business in a very stupid way by having one locksmith and no access to bathrooms other than him. And why don't we solve that problem?
Yeah. Maybe
that's the problem.
Maybe better doors.
We should solve.
If you're getting locked from the inside?
I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
By the way, national parks, bathrooms, I feel like you could extricate yourself. Yeah. I feel like you could. Anyway, this is a job for the private sector.
I try to spend as little time as possible in these public facilities.
No. Have you ever been in a national parks? I'm going to get TMI. Have you ever been in a national parks bathroom on the side of a mountain, when they're really, really far up there? And sometimes that draft is coming straight up the toilet at you. From many thousands of feet below.
I do know that. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
It's like a glacial air bidet.
Cooling, really. Yes. Okay.
Anyway,
related to this, Mary. You can say anyway. Yes, Mary.
I think I have a real point that I'm making. Okay.
Yeah. If I may.
Go ahead.
Gather yourself here. Colin Anderson, the Free Beacon, has a piece out that you need to check out, which is the mainstream media, New York Times, and other and networks as well, had covered these protests happening at town hall meetings in very red congressional districts in places like in Georgia and elsewhere, where it's these conservative congressmen, they come back, they do a town hall,
right?
And these constituents in very red districts are very upset at DOJ and all the government, and they're having all these protests. And if you checked, it was on MSNBC about nationwide protests erupt as if they were all over the place. Well, it turns out that these protests And in some of the places, they mention it at the very bottom, and they're very coy about exactly who's doing what.
Right.
The protests were organized by groups such as Indivisible and Move On, which,
okay.
of course, are funded by George Soros.
Okay.
So they want you to think, again, they have a narrative, Mary Katharine. This goes into who were the victims, sad stories of people getting laid off, and they're not being covered. And you have stories like this where they don't tell you who exactly is organizing this. And they interview some woman, some poor constituent who they don't mention that she ran as a Democrat
right.
for
Yes,
the local commission, county commission. So, please.
Also at Yosemite over the weekend, in protest, the workers who have been let go from the national park system. Mm-hmm. And this is another place, actually, where they made a mistake, which is that they fired maybe 1,000 National Park Service workers.
Oh.
And then they conceded that, oh, yes, we actually need seasonal workers. So they're allowing for seasonal workers to come in despite what would otherwise be a hiring freeze. I think that was what they landed on. At any rate, at Yosemite, they hang an upside down flag from the top of El Capitan. Now, I'll credit where it's due. A dramatic and cool looking protest.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime you do sure. Didn't somebody else do an upside down flag? Didn't somebody Supreme Court?
That's actually
Justice's
a
wife?
great point.
Refresh my memory.
Great point. Any distress flag, we are told, and any invocation thereof, up until this week, was solidarity with January 6th.
Yeah,
folks,
it's insurrection.
So why did the Yosemite workers put the insurrection flag up?
Because that's a good insurrection.
Oh, now it's good. Yeah. Now it's okay. Got it. So they put that up. We don't get weeks of coverage of it because they're not Supreme Court justices' wives with a historic flag. So
now you're talking about the other flag, right?
There were several incidents of flag issues.
Yes.
At any rate, all of these things are bad symbols until they're not bad symbols because the left adopts them. I can't roll my eyes hard enough, guys, at the idea that this is the nation in distress. Okay? That someone looking at the books, that someone making hiring and firing decisions who we elected to do so is a nation in distress. And by the way, I would like to note, I looked it up just to see what the old experience was like at Yosemite National Park during COVID when everybody was happy to go home and not work. Yeah. And the national parks weren't considered so important for 3 to 6 months, even 2 years in some places where they operated at very low levels. Yosemite for 2 years, 2 summers. Reservations required, actually to this day, no shuttles, no transportation, no public transportation, no indoor dining in 2020. There was a little bit in 2021. 2 of 13 campgrounds open, so nobody could camp, and they were at 50% capacity. No housekeeping in any of the rooms.
Oh, right.
But now they'll tell you it is an absolute emergency, and we will have dirty facilities, and no one will be able to use the parks properly. Yeah, we've been there. Yeah. Again, you run into the baseline problem, which is that you guys already established not a great baseline. And by the way, in case you're wondering, because they're going to tell you it's a funding problem, I looked up the Congressional Research Service on whether the national parks budget has gone up or down over the last 5 years. I know you'll be shocked to know that it's up in real dollars and inflation-adjusted dollars. Yeah. And there was a supplemental giant bill passed in the summer of 2020, signed by evil President Trump at the time,
2020,
that gave them billions of dollars a year for the next 5 years to fix all the deferred maintenance that they had ignored for decades. Because it's a well-oiled machine over there. So anyway,
it's not playing.
We gave them $10 billion. Yeah. They're not underfunded. It's nonsense. I'm sick of being lied to by all these people.
No,
with their upside down stupid flags and their vocal fry.
And your upside down political flags and vocal fry. That really sums it up, doesn't it? And you're not alone, because I think a lot of people, the way this plays out is not the way they think it plays out. And they spend, the late night talk show comedians, they devote a lot of time to this.
They love these folks.
They love this, and that's all they do is make jokes about it and how, it's the end of the world. But no.
It's fine. It's fine, guys. Yosemite alone had I looked it up, had several $100 million in deferred maintenance that they haven't done. And they'll just tell you that's because you haven't given us enough money. And then when you give them the money to do the deferred maintenance, they don't do it. Right. I looked that up too. Yeah, they haven't done it.
That's so shocking because that's, usually give money to, the federal government. They're pretty good about
it's almost like
allocated properly.
It's almost like when you throw money at a problem from people that you can get for free, they create more problems. So
but you get to say that you gave more money, and that's really what counts.
Congratulations, everyone. We've spent a lot of time on this, and I didn't mean to, but I got mad about the Yosemite thing.
But, by the way, the solution to getting to the $2 trillion or more is obviously Medicare and Medicaid. I think they're going after that. That's
this is the argument against Doge, which I am sympathetic to.
Yeah.
But give me what I can have.
Right.
I want something.
Yeah.
Take little things.
I remember when Paul Ryan...
My expectations are so low. I'm just like,
I remember
sure.
I remember when Paul Ryan suggested Social Security reform and maybe Medicare, Medicaid, and one of the things he talked about was raising the age minimum because people live longer, but it wouldn't affect people who are already 5 years away from retirement. No.
Dude, if we had done it back when George Bush suggested it or back when Paul Ryan suggested it, we'd be on a much better path now. But
it has to be a month away.
Yes.
If it's like we are going to go bankrupt in 30 days. If it's more than 30 days, they don't want to deal with it.
By the way, if you're still concerned about Doge or Elon Musk having access to your sensitive information, by the way, he owned PayPal. He already has your information. House Judiciary GOP just put this out. New disclosure reveals that the Biden IRS leaked taxpayer information of over 405,000 Americans, including President Trump's. The IRS's admission confirms the committee's suspicion, and recent reports that show the scope of the leak was much broader than what the Biden administration's IRS initially led the public to believe. In May 2024, an IRS spokesman stated that more than 70,000 taxpayers were affected. We found that it's actually over 405,000. This is a massive scandal. Again, this is the baseline problem. They established a very low baseline. So when the baseline is threatened and they say, oh, all of your wonderful services and data security from the IRS will be ruined, people go, what wonderful services and data security?
Yeah.
I didn't have any.
Up to now, right.
Okay. I'm good. Should we talk about Ukraine? I'm sure that'll cheer me
up. Oh,
up.
hey, there's a happy topic. Yeah.
Have we talked since Donald Trump said Ukraine should not have started it?
I believe, according to our producer, Jennifer, we didn't. We might have tangentially.
Yeah, that's not true. Ukraine didn't start it. I don't know if he actually believes that.
That's the question.
If he misspoke.
So we're talking about he was giving a press conference and he mentions this. I think we kind of might have spoken a little bit about it. But the question is why? Why did he say it? Do you think it is? I'll give you three choices, Mary Katharine, okay? One, he believes it. Like, I just got off the phone with Putin and he told me they started it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Or because, Ukraine provoked them.
Right.
They provoked him by dangling NATO membership.
Well, and there is a strain of thought on the right in a more isolationist version of the right. Yeah. And there are powerful figures within it who make the argument that that is what happened and that this was not unprovoked by Russia.
Or
right. So he might be listening to that part of the coalition.
Or he misspoke. Or he knows that they didn't, but he's playing some 3D chess with Putin in order to gain some enormous concession down the line. Well, what is it?
Well, there is the sucking up to Putin for a purpose possibility. Still doesn't make it good. There's also the possibility that he just doesn't like Zelensky, which I think we've talked about, and that Zelensky is acting like a bonehead by announcing things that are untrue or talking behind their backs while Rubio's trying to keep everybody in line. Right. He's not being super helpful to his cause, and I kind of wonder... That doesn't make Trump's approach correct, but I kind of wonder if his misread of this is because he's been in an intellectual bubble that all agrees with him about exactly what's happening here for a long time, and he's needing to mount an argument in a different way, and he's not doing that. So I think there's a lot of things sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
Also, this man doesn't care what he says in public, and I wish he would care what he says in public sometimes.
Are you talking about Zelensky or Trump?
Trump.
Oh.
Like, just check it before you go. Just Google it.
Yeah. So, yes, I think Trump got clearly annoyed. You could tell he got a little aggravated in the tone of his voice when he was asked, why didn't you include Zelensky in your conversations about, with the Russians, about how to bring an end to this? And it's not your country, it's his country. And how is that supposed to work? And then he said, look, he had he had his chance. Now, you could put the fault and the blame on the previous administration. because they said all great things like we are going to support them, this will not stand.
Right.
But they didn't exactly give them the necessary support in offensive weapons.
Right.
I mean, Zelensky started receiving U.S. aid during the Trump administration with, I believe it's the Javelin missiles. And then during the Biden years, that was a crawl. And same thing with all the other countries, including in Germany, where Olaf Scholz had said, the chancellor, this is not going to stand. We're going to give them the aid and the Leopard tanks and all these things. It's a long, drawn-out process. And there was a lot of it was, well, we're going to give the new stuff to Poland, and Poland can give you the old stuff.
Right.
And we don't want to give them any weapons that can be used as offensive weapons into Russian territory. We'd rather have you, again, the strategy, much like their strategy they wanted for Israel, is to play defense, wait till it enters the airspace, and then defend like a shield, and everybody lives happily ever after.
A little too clever and cautious by half.
Yes.
And didn't result in wins.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the Mike Walzes, Pete Hegseths of this administration are very much on the same page when it comes to Israel and Ukraine.
Yes.
And have expressed that many, many times over. And so they're kind of having to
Rubio
trying to figure out how to get right with the president, but also negotiate
how to explain
this.
I think Walt said it's quote it's complicated, which it is, but
some of it's complicated.
But some of it is straightforward.
Parts of it are very simple.
Maybe Mary Katharine, maybe he's playing this 3D chess, and he says, you know what? There's a UN resolution that says there needs to be an end to the war, but if we push for one that doesn't blame Russia for it and just say end the war, that's doing Putin a solid, and then he'll give me a free hand on Iran. No?
I don't know.
Yeah, you know.
Look, I'm done. I'm done.
It out there.
I'm done closing off.
I have no idea.
I'm done closing off the possibility that Trump can accomplish things in weird ways that I don't think are possible. Right? Like that he's shown many times over that he can do that. However,
it's Art of the Deal, the international edition.
However, you are trading moral leadership for practical concessions.
Yeah, it's not a good look when the vetoing powers in the UN for the resolution that wanted to blame Putin puts you on the side of Russia, China, and Belarus.
And like UN's a waste anyway, and like these resolutions don't mean anything.
Don't do anything.
However,
but
we should be on the right side of them. I think.
No, that's a good point. Okay.
So there's that. Should we do a lightning round of Dems in disarray?
Yes, I was going to say the last thing is really quickly on Ukraine. I don't blame them for being wary of a deal being organized by not just Trump, but by the United States, which dates back to 1994. Right. And the assurance that if you give up your nuclear deterrence, we have your back.
Yeah.
Then that didn't happen.
Ukraine's like, dudes,
no,
we did the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
they unilaterally disarmed as an attempt to show like, okay, we're not going to proliferate just for funsies and destabilize this region. Yes. But we didn't actually end up holding up our part.
That's right. Okay.
Okay. So Kamala was at the BET Awards and she gave a little acceptance for her chairman award. Right. This is the the NAACP Image Awards on BET. So a collaboration.
That's right. Mary Katharine, she does go on to discuss the rising waters in our cities, and the lengthening shadow over our democracy.
Wow.
But I can't help but think that W.E.B. Du Bois is like, man, she's really giving a bad delivery of my line.
She's murdering that
line. It
line.
sounded so much better when I said it.
I was just thinking that
I was debating Booker T. Washington.
They pan to the audience, and bless them, everyone is trying to act supportive, but everyone knows that this is very badly delivered.
You don't think they're thinking, yes, for 2028, she's going to come back and she'll be, unhindered by Biden. The luggage is.
I think as unburdened by what has been.
Yes.
I think the idea of her has always been better than the real her.
Yeah.
And these are people being confronted with the real her in the audience, and they're being polite.
Yeah.
But that's not skillful.
We could have had 4 years of those speeches.
And by the way, the speech is 4 minutes long. I only gave you like 30 minutes, 30 seconds. It just, I think it illustrates the issue with her inability to connect. Don't have her talking about time frames ever. That's a real
No.
Achilles heel for her.
No,
she gets into a loop and she's trying to figure out. It's like she's watching Back to the Future 2 and she's trying to explain it to you.
You cut the space-time continuum, and that thread is now gone. We're now back to the other story, so it never happened.
Yeah. It was like me watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when I was 8 and trying to figure out how he got the car keys back in his dad's office. I was like, hold on.
Oh, that was so crazy because they just timed it back, but then they run into each other.
I know.
But it's too much.
We can't get into
No,
it.
we
It'll
can't.
sound
Not
like a
here.
Kamala speech. Anyway, so we have that. Joy Reid let go from MSNBC from her primetime show
Yeah, she did
that
so
she
well.
has had for a long time.
Yeah.
And
amazing numbers. Our numbers are almost comparable. I'm going to say that.
I think that's probably true, right?
On certain days. Yeah.
Well, Rachel Maddow, who is the extremely highly paid
the big star
anchor over there, or commentator. I shouldn't say anchor because she's not a straight news person. She talked about how this was problematic.
Okay.
An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Reid Out, ended tonight. And Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take. I am 51 years old. I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And I have had so many different kinds of jobs, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
So I have so they're replacing Joy Reid with a white anchor host.
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Vic.
A white male.
They're replacing Joy Reid with Simone Sanders, Michael Steele, and Alicia Menendez.
That's racism.
2 African Americans and a Hispanic woman.
Yes, a Hispanic daughter of a convicted felon senator.
By the way, I did not know until now. He told me before the show. I was like, well, I've known her for years. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, she is the daughter of former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez.
Okay. So that's who's replacing it. It doesn't seem that racist to me, but this is the crutch they all have. Also, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Rachel Maddow, who makes $30 million.
20, she took a cut, Mary Catherine. She took a cut. It's 20. It's only 25
now. $25 million to do a once-a-week show?
That was the concession. So she took a cut, 25 to go on like 3 times instead of 1.
Okay. Well, so she's making $25 million. Cut that $25 million in half. Take half your salary. And then promote and pay for 3, 4, 5 hosts of color.
Yeah.
Give them your slot. I just thought.
Or take a cut from 25 to 22 and keep Joy Reid on for free, if you will.
It's also strange how the action ain't so affirmative when it's in your own job on the line and your own money on the line. Right. Rachel Maddow needs to be sitting in that chair. She's very important. She's a very important white lady. It's different. She's a right-thinking white lady who needs to be in that slot.
You know what? The good thing is, Mary Catherine, we pointed this out in the Free Beacon, now that Joy Reid is no longer doing her show on MSNBC, maybe she will finally figure out who hacked her website and put all those homophobic, anti-Semitic, and anti-Muslim comments that were purportedly written by her, but clearly not.
This is a very vintage scandal where Joy Reid, when she was first rising through the ranks, was caught in the archives of her Blogspot blog saying really pretty heinous homophobic things, anti-Semitic things. Yeah. They're all there for people to see. They're screenshot. They're archived. And her argument was that when people found these...
Yeah, I've been hacked.
Not, it was a different time. I had these beliefs. I don't have these beliefs anymore. Nothing like that. It was, I was hacked and someone went back in time to put those blog posts on my blog spot in 2007 or whatever it was. And she was never punished for lying about that. She said the FBI was going to get to the bottom of it at the time. And she remained an anchor in good stead until now.
Oh, yes. Well, okay. And the media gave her the benefit of the doubt, obviously.
Of course. Okay, I need to do one more, and then we got to close it out. And I know we haven't done German election, but we're going to next episode because I want to hear from you. Yeah. Here's a real finger on the pulse moment from the governor of Wisconsin and Wisconsin Democrats. They filed a bill February 18th changing the word mother in state language to protect mothers.
Yes.
To inseminated person is their new take on the sort of non-gendered,
lovely,
non-traditional.
Yes, it's to protect lesbian mothers, I assume.
I guess yes. It's the idea is to protect.
That makes them feel so much better to be called an inseminated person, by the way.
He says IVF folks, that kind of thing, but IVF existed when we were still calling people mother. We've been able to walk this line before.
Sure.
But I love this about it. You know what term dad gets?
What?
Parent. Dad gets parent and I get inseminated person? And you're going to tell me you're the party of women? How dare.
If this wasn't a family show, Mary Catherine, the number of jokes I would tell.
Look, I thought I'd have to be in a different line of work to be called that, but here we are.
Well, keep them coming. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
I have a quick scoop and then we're out of here. Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, the problem for them, and I think Jonathan Martin actually pointed this out, and he's correct. He's both Politico now.
Yeah.
If Evers, the governor, says this is nonsense, I can't do this, his staffers will all resign and have a protest where they hang an upside down American flag.
How dare you not call that an inseminated person?
So this is how they are going to keep possibly losing to Elon Musk, no matter how much chaos and Saturday night emails he sends.
Yeah, they're going to milk it for what it's worth. Sorry.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Quick scoop for you. Scoop, Mary Catherine, and then we're out of here. My restaurant publicist friend tells me the Vances and friends had dinner last Friday at Roscoe West End in town. That nice Indian restaurant down there with 10 people. They stayed for 2 hours, and my friend tells me that Usha wore jeans, flats, and a red pea coat.
Get it, girl.
There you go. Ashok Bajaj owns the restaurant and many in D.C., including an Israeli restaurant, Sababa. So that's nice that they were there and they clearly had a nice time. So it's a little bit of a scene in D.C.
Love it.
Scoop for you.
I went to a fantastic Indian restaurant in D.C. the other day called Rania that I'd never been to before. Food was great. The cocktails were kind of a little bit edgy and had very cool presentation. There was one that they brought out, I kid you not. And it's a high-end restaurant, and yet it has these very theatric presentations for the cocktails. There was one spicy cocktail that came out, had some mezcal in it, and it came out in a Rambo era ammunition box that they opened and it's smoking and there's a cobra in there looking at you. Not a real one. But
you almost had me.
And then you lift your smoky drink out of it. It was fantastic.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway.
Good to know.
Rania.
Good to know. That wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter at Victorina Mattis.
I'm at MK Hammer on X, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. You can follow the show at Getting Hammered Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Thank you so much for getting hammered responsibly. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.